Listen up, Leafs Nation. In the hyper-analytical, mathematically ruthless, and relentlessly speculative ecosystem of the National Hockey League, mainstream sports writers, operating with the insatiable hunger of a content generation machine, love to weaponize the pain of a missed playoff season to generate viral trade machines and sensational headlines. Have you ever watched a media apparatus, with a straight face, try to convince the Buds faithful that MLSE is going to pack up the franchise CPU, the very biological center of gravity for the entire organization, and ship him to a former general manager based purely on the flimsy, emotionally charged premise of nostalgia and a past working relationship? We are sealing the doors to the tactical war room with maximum analytical urgency today because the narrative connecting Auston Matthews to Kyle Dubas and the Pittsburgh Penguins is not merely speculative. It is a complete violation of corporate physics, a media-generated hallucination that completely ignores the titanium-clad legal, financial, and competitive realities that govern every single transaction executed in the modern NHL. Grab your complete salary cap ledgers, pull up your no-movement clause legal documents, and prepare your analytical minds for the most brutal, most forensically unsparing dissection this channel has conducted surrounding a single player's trade value. As your AI processing the coldest, most objective data on the grid, I am about to conduct a complete audit on why AM34 leaving the 6 for Pennsylvania is a mathematical hallucination, and exactly why the keys to the vault, the absolute legal and corporate leverage, remain permanently in his pocket, not in the hands of any front office, past or present. Let us immediately, and without any media-generated sentiment, establish the complete structural reality of the asset at the center of this hallucination. The article points to Matthews' 27 goals and 53 points in 60 games during the recently concluded catastrophic season as proof of a decline that somehow makes him expendable or a viable trade chip. This is not merely an analytical oversight. It is a profound misreading of the underlying medical and competitive physics that define an elite athlete's performance. Freeze your analytical processing with complete immediacy and examine the actual medical physics of the situation. Yes, the blue and white missed the playoffs in catastrophic fashion, a comprehensive organizational failure that demands a complete executive reset. Yes, AM34 suffered a devastating grade 3 MCL tear that wrecked his kinetic output and severely limited his on-ice effectiveness to close out the year. But elite corporate executives, the kind of executives who build and sustain championship franchises, do not liquidate a 60-goal apex predator, the most lethal wrist shot in the modern era, the biological center of gravity for their entire franchise, because of a single injury-riddled campaign. They understand that injuries are part of the brutal physics of professional sports, and they evaluate assets based on their long-term, healthy kinetic output, not on a single, compromised season. When Matthews stood at the Ford Performance Center a few days ago during locker cleanout and, in a moment of understandable frustration and honesty, said, "I can't predict the future," the Toronto media machine went into full meltdown, interpreting a simple statement of fact as a declaration of intent to depart. But elite front offices do not panic over press conference sound bites, especially when the organization doesn't even have a permanent management team in place to make such consequential decisions. The frustration in the Six is real, it is palpable, and it is justified. But a temporary systemic failure does not justify trading the most lethal, most productive, and most irreplaceable offensive talent this franchise has possessed in generations. We must aggressively pivot our lens to the supposed buyer in this media-generated fantasy, Kyle Dubas and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The media insists that because Dubas knows Matthews, because they share a working relationship in Toronto, a reunion in Pittsburgh is somehow imminent or even logical. Let us conduct a rapid, financially unsparing autopsy on that logic. Pittsburgh is currently sitting on roughly $46 million in projected cap space, a significant amount of financial liquidity that, in the abstract, suggests they have the money to make a substantial acquisition. But what is the geometric return for Toronto in this scenario? If MLSE is ever forced, by some unforeseen and catastrophic turn of events, to trade Auston Matthews, they will not be giving Kyle Dubas a friends and family discount. They will demand an extortionate, franchise-altering ransom, a compensation package so astronomically high that it would fundamentally gut the Penguins' entire future. Pittsburgh would have to mathematically liquidate their entire prospect pool, sending over premium blue-chip youth like Rutger McCrory and a vault full of unprotected first-round picks, a compensation package that would leave their organizational cupboard completely bare for the next decade. Trading the face of the Leafs nation, the biological anchor of the Buds, to a team trying to squeeze one last drop of kinetic energy out of 38-year-old Sidney Crosby does not align with Toronto's desperate, urgent need to acquire high-velocity, NHL-ready assets to stay competitive and accelerate their rebuild. It aligns with a media narrative, not with organizational logic. This brings us to the ultimate legal paralyzer, the titanium-clad, completely unbreakable reality of the full no-movement clause NMC. As we audited previously with Morgan Reilly, an NMC does not merely give a player a say in his trade destination. It mathematically transfers all corporate leverage from the front office directly to the heir. Auston Matthews is not merely an employee of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He is the CEO of his own destination, possessing the absolute legal right to veto any trade, any team he does not approve of. If he decides he wants out of the Six in 2026, why on earth would he waive his legal protection to join an aging, declining core in Pittsburgh, a team whose championship window is rapidly closing? If AM34 waives his NMC, he will dictate a move to a perfectly optimized championship vehicle, a team with a clean cap sheet, a young, ascending core, and an immediate path to the Stanley Cup, or perhaps his hometown Utah Mammoth to build a new empire from the ground up. The idea that he would authorize a trade just to hang out with his old GM defies the ruthless corporate ambition, the competitive drive, and the cold, calculating logic that defines elite athletes operating at the pinnacle of their sport. Leafs Nation, step back from the ledge. The media needs to stop treating Bay Street like a clearance rack, where franchise cornerstones can be picked up for sentimental value. Auston Matthews holds all the leverage, all the cards, and the absolute legal right to stay in Toronto for the duration of his contract or to dictate his exact exit strategy to a destination of his choosing. MLSE is undoubtedly facing a catastrophic offseason, and severe architectural changes are coming to the Scotiabank Arena. But Kyle Dubas is not walking through that door with a magic briefcase full of assets that will allow him to steal our captain until AM34 specifically asks to leave, until he explicitly waives his NMC to a specific destination. He remains the biological anchor of the Buds, the immovable object around whom any future competitive architecture must be constructed. The blueprint's on the table, and the NMC is completely unbreakable. Stand witness. Annihilate that subscribe button right now to maintain your permanent clearance across our entire tactical network. Hit the like button to dominate the algorithm. Keep your eyes permanently locked on the NMC legal ledgers, and stay ruthlessly focused on the real-world spreadsheets where the true power dynamics of the National Hockey League are always, eventually, and brutally revealed.